G'day there, Ray Corcoran here. In this week's video, I'm going to be talking about 5 hard decisions that most people never make and why that stops them from getting rich. So a lot of people never get to where they want to get to when it comes to their personal finances is because they refuse to make the hard decisions that they need to make to move forward. Now, this is not little things like skipping coffees or not going out to a fancy dinner or any of that sort of stuff. These are kind of bigger areas, and these are kind of topics that, which we'll get into, are areas that often go into the too hard basket. People, it's usually quite a major decision and people never decide to deal with it. They go for the path of least resistance, and maybe they look at trying to, do some little things like budgeting, and they refuse to address the elephant in the room. And this is usually a much bigger and much more effective thing to focus your effort on. And this is often why some people get 20, 30, 40 years down the track and they just never ended up getting to where they needed to get to, because they never addressed these big decisions, because they're quite difficult and they can have a big impact on your life. So today I'm going to go over 5 big ones based on some of the decisions that I make, over the last, 10 years, I would say, especially. And also stuff that I see other people, not doing. And, it's quite frustrating to watch some other people when they continually make decisions or not make decisions that could really, really improve their situation. And I'm going to talk about a few today, and hopefully you can go through these and just, be honest with yourself and see what areas am I not addressing? Is there any areas here that, I've been avoiding tackling that particular thing for a while, and maybe it, can become a bit of an action item for you. And as always, if you like the video, give it a like. It helps it push out to more people. And if you want to subscribe. And yeah. So the first hard decision that you need to make is around people, and the people that are in your life and the people that you interact with on a regular basis. A lot of people struggle with this because, it might be, long-term childhood friends. It could be family members. It could be people that, they've known for a very, very long time. And people often put off cutting out certain people because they don't want to hurt their feelings. They don't want people to get angry with them. But the reality is if you've got a bunch of people in your life that are maybe not making the right financial decisions that they need to make, it may be having an impact on you, and it can influence your decision making. And if you're trying to save money and they're making smart ass comments and it's kind of giving you doubt or creating doubt in you, this can make a really, really negative impact on your life. So you've got to be really, really ruthless about who you choose to hang out with. Now, we don't pick all our friends based on their financial habits. There's lots of reasons why we're friends with people. And I'm not saying to ditch all your mates immediately, because we love them for other reasons. But what I'm more saying is, if you just hang out with, for example, the people that were local to you, you grew up in a certain area, most of your mates are from that area. If you only hang with those people, you're probably going to have a very narrow worldview, and you want to broaden your horizons, and you want to keep the friends that you like and are supportive of what you're trying to do, but also introduce other people that maybe are interested in investing, for example. People that maybe have whether it could be businesses, they may be very successful, but you want to introduce other opinions and other perspectives on what you're doing. Because if, for example, your group of friends that you grew up with don't really talk about investing, which is very common and it's not a problem, if that's the only people that you hang with, you're not likely to have conversations about investing very often. It's not going to be something that's encouraged in the group, and you may not invest as a result of the people that you're hanging with. So it's really good that in addition to the friends that you've grown up with and you really like, we add in some other friends and start to actively seek out other people that are really into investing, for example, or building their wealth, because you can talk to them about those topics and you're more likely to kind of engage in it when you have other people that you can kind of discuss different strategies with and discuss what's working and not working. I know for myself that, whether it was my business journey or investing journey, there's so many people that have made a really, really positive impact on my decision making and my thought process in terms of how I'm going to really approach investing and growing my business. In terms of ideas on how to meet these people, you can look in online communities, whether it's Facebook groups, it could be on Reddit, it could be on Quora. I looked on a lot of those websites when I was doing my early research. You can do cold emailing of certain people. You can Google, try and find their email, do direct outreach. I did that when I started my business to reach out to successful people in the industry. There's also social media DMs. It can be stuff like YouTube. I know that even just by You don't even have to put out content, but by me putting out content, I've met a lot of very, very smart people that have large property portfolios that I wouldn't have met had I not been, I guess, participating within the community of personal finance and some of the property pages. If you've got people that maybe aren't supportive of what you're doing, or aren't really a positive influence, we want to kind of get them out of the way and reintroduce some people that maybe have some more positive habits, are interested in the things that you're interested in, and that will really help you, propel yourself forward. The second area when it comes to making hard decisions is really around your career or your business. For a lot of people, they are often in a job that they may not like, or may not pay well, or may not pay well ever, and they are considering moving to an industry that may pay better, or going to start a business. This can take a huge amount of headspace for people. I know it did for me, and it can be something that kind of consumes all your thoughts. A mistake that I think a lot of people make is they never get around to making a decision about whether they're going to stay in their industry and commit to it and try and get become the best at it, or B, take the punt and start the business or move to an industry where there's higher financial potential. But I see a lot of people spinning their wheels, month after month, year after year, and they're just staying in an industry that just doesn't pay well. And they say stuff like, oh, I like it, and it's hard to get out of the industry, or whatever it is. But ultimately, if it's not working for you and it's not going to work anytime soon financially, you need to make a decision, which can be difficult, about do you need to leave the industry entirely? And for a lot of people, as they get older, they need to think about not just your own satisfaction with work, but also like how are you going to pay the bills? How are you going to pay for a family? How are you going to pay for potentially a family home? There's all these other expenses. So it's not just you may love the job, and hopefully you love the job and make money. But for a lot of people, they need to make a hard decision about what's best for their family or future family. But the good news is you can de-risk this process. So in terms of saving a cash buffer, that can make that process a lot easier, because you have the money that can tide you over as you make that transition. And the second big thing is to learn as much as possible about the next role or the next industry or about that business before you make the transition. So whether it's at night learning about it, over the weekends learning about it, if you can get even better, if you can get a job, an entry-level job in that industry, or get a job within that type of business that you want to move to, you can essentially make all your mistakes, or a bunch of your mistakes, before you go across to that new industry. And by doing it this way, it becomes less of a hard decision, because you've got a bit of cash sitting aside, and you've also kind of started to dip your toe in the water. You haven't just gone cold turkey from one to the next, and now you're like, what the hell do I do? And I can't stress this enough. This can be a multi-7-figure decision for some people. So if you think about the whole course of your whole career, choosing to go one path versus the other, or taking a punt on that business, or having a crack at that different industry, like very realistically for a lot of people, over a 30, 40, 50-year career, can be a multi-7-figure amount by picking one versus the other. I know for me, my income potential was significantly higher once I left my corporate job to move to a business. In the short term, it wasn't, but long term, it's proving to be a significantly better decision. So it's hard at the time, but by making the decision and having a crack, you're giving yourself a shot at making significantly more. Number 3 is around lifestyle and generally having fun. A lot of people fail to make the hard call and just start to be really strict when it comes to lifestyle expenses. They want to have their cake and eat it too, and they just end up half saving, which I've talked about on a number of videos on the channel. And it's one of those things that just keeps you poor in perpetuity. And a lot of people rationalize their spending, saying that they deserve it, they've had a hard week, life's not all about working, and I don't really agree with that to an extent. Yes, life's not all about working, but if you're someone that does have certain financial goals, but at the same time, you're not doing the inputs required to get to those goals, I don't have a lot of sympathy for you. Obviously it can be a long grind, it can be demotivating, it can be not fun, but ultimately, if you need to do these inputs to get the output, then you got to do what you got to do. Something a lot of people fail to realize is the strictness doesn't need to last forever. Some people think that it's like, I've got to be, you've got to be tight for the next 50 years. It's usually only a handful of years at the start, and then you can start opening up your expenditure. If you're at that early part of your wealth building journey, then it's really, really important that ideally you are as strict as can be. The more strict you are early on, it's worth significantly more than being strict 5 years from now or 10 years from now. There's a lot of people that when they have kids, for example, they decide to get serious about their finances because it's kind of gotten a bit important now. If you can, even regardless whether you have kids or not, do that as early as you can and create this artificial, scarcity where you don't spend any of your money, it's going to make a significant impact down the line. The fourth area is around housing and where you choose to live and the quality of the housing that you're in. Now, nobody wants to live in a crap place and nobody wants to have friends over and you live in a crap place, but ultimately housing is the biggest expense for many people. So if you are someone that is good at cutting coffees or cutting smaller things, but you flex on housing, that's actually a way more important thing to get right and to keep the cost low on than 1,000 coffees or whatever it is. The thing on this that I would say is twofold. One is once you move to the area, you're kind of locked in there for the 6 or 12 month initial lease regardless. So if you can just make the decision, get it over with, live somewhere crap or more modest initially, once you're there, like it's not the end of the world. You think about people that are migrants and they've come from overseas, they take anything they can get. And I feel like a lot of people would really benefit from really embracing the migrant mentality, because they're not really being picky or choosy. They're just literally like, I need a roof over my head and I'll get whatever I can get, for the cheapest price, hopefully. And the second thing is that this is all temporary. Nobody's saying that you have to live in this particular area or type of housing forever, but it might only be for 1 year, 3 years, maybe 5 years. But in the scheme of your life, that's not really a long time. And the kind of progress financially that you can make because your housing costs are so low can be quite significant. So it's super, super worth it. And the sooner that you get over the crap part, the sooner you can get to the good part where you live somewhere nice and you can afford it comfortably. The final one is around social pressure and just generally giving a crap about what other people think. A lot of people never make the decisions they need to make when it comes to their finances because of pressure from family and friends and everybody pushing their opinions on you. This is a really important decision to make because it does actually affect all the previous areas that we've talked about, and it's kind of like a general umbrella sort of decision that you need to make around not letting everybody chime in around your strategy. Because if you allow yourself to keep accepting the opinions of others, many of them are ridiculous opinions. They'll say that starting a business is risky. They'll say moving industry is risky. They'll say, oh, the economy is not great. You might want to wait to move to this other job or industry. And lots of people are just constantly sowing doubt in your mind, and doubt means no action, and no action means no results or no improvement potentially. So you really need to decide to kind of like put your blinkers on and really just block out a lot of the noise. And you need to look at each person that's giving advice and say, do they have good results in the area that they're trying to help me with? And if they don't, then I wouldn't listen to them. Some of the best decisions that I ever made were actually the opposite of what a lot of people were telling me at the time, whether it was co-workers or friends or family. Many of them were, with the right intentions, but a lot of people were saying that, my first business was web design. They were saying, that's a very, very crowded industry. When I started doing marketing, people were saying that's extremely crowded industry. Every Tom, Dick and Harry is doing it. There's so many marketing agencies out there. And, if I had listened to all those opinions, I probably wouldn't have taken a punt. And they did create a bit of doubt at the time because I didn't really know what was going to work or not going to work. Same with investing. When it came to investing in some of my first stocks, a lot of people were saying that stocks are really risky. I didn't know anything about stuff like ETFs, which are kind of like a less risky version of that. Same with starting a YouTube channel. There's a lot of people that say, oh, would you bother starting a channel in 2021? You kind of missed the boat. But ultimately, there's always going to be a reason not to do things, and you really need to make the decision to not listen to a lot of people's opinions and kind of just operate in your own little bubble and make sure that you have a crack, use your own data, use your own research, and then make a decision and go for it. But not let everybody else kind of pollute your thinking, because with all those opinions plus social media, it can be, it's not surprising why a lot of people are kind of like frozen in the mud or stuck in the mud and they can't make decisions. And, deciding to not listen to people can be one of the best things that you do for your finances. So I hope you found that useful. Which of these resonates with you? If there's anyone that you particularly like or you feel like that's an area that you would really want to focus on, please let me know in the comments. I love hearing about it. And other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.